Welcome to Drive the Daf, clear, structured explanation of the daily daf in 20 minutes. You can even follow in the car.
Pesachim Daf continues working on the sugya of the halachic status of tumas mashkin, when liquids can become tamei. We're still working our way through a brisa which lists three opinions as to whether liquids can cause tumah, can transmit tumah to other objects. Meaning, all the opinions in this brisa agree that liquids can become tamei themselves midaraisa. The question is, can they transmit tumah further d'oraisa or only d'rabanan? So we've seen Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Elazar holds that they can only transmit, liquids can only transmit tumah further midarabanan. Rabbi Yehuda initially said that they can transmit further d'oraisa, and then he changed, and we're not sure who did he change to. Did he change to like Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Elazar that they can only transmit liquids further midarabanan, or did he change to hold like Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Shimon, who are the last opinion in the brisa that they can actually, there's a split halacha, they can transmit tumah further d'oraisa to food, but not to kalim. So the Gemara's question now is, what does Rabbi Yehuda now hold? Does he hold that liquids can be mitame, food midaraisa, or not? The Gemara is going to bring a proof to that and two potential answers to it. Then the Gemara will move into discussing Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Shimon's opinion, and we will look for sources for these halachos that food and kalim have different halachos with regards to accepting tumah from liquids. This is going to be a complex series of derivations which we will discuss at length, and that will take us to the end of the daf. So, we're beginning with the question of when Rabbi Yehuda changed his mind, and he holds that now liquids can transmit tumah further d'oraisa. Is that true? Can it transmit tumah midaraisa to foods, or can it not transmit tumah midaraisa to foods? So the Gemara has a potential proof from a brisa discussing a cow, regular cow, which drank water that was paraduma water, it drank mechatas. Now we know that the paraduma water is considered to be tumah chamura. It is very strict, high level tumah. It is matami, anything which touches it. So what is the halacha of this cow? And now drank this water, and then you shech this cow, either as a carbon or as chulin, but you shech this cow, and the water is still in the stomach. So the cow is now food. You've slaughtered it. It's got tamei water in its stomach. What is the halacha? Is it tamei or not? So the Tanna Kama holds the meat of the cow is tamei. It's what he says, b'zara tamei. Rabbi Yehuda says, no, the water is batel. It's not tamei anymore. Now the Gemara asks, the water may not be paraduma water. You can't give it the status of paraduma water if it's been drunk. It is batel from, it's not called mechatas anymore. However, it should still be called water. And as long as it's water, it should still be tamei. Why should it be tamei? It may not be paraduma water, but it's as good as if it touched paraduma water. It formerly was paraduma water, so it should still have the tumah of something which touches paraduma water, which is a rishon l'tumah, and it should still therefore be matame the meat of the cow that it's in. Why does Rabbi Yehuda not hold away? Obviously, Rabbi Yehuda must say that liquids cannot transmit tumah to foods at all. That's why he says you do not have any tumah being transmitted from this water to the cow that it is inside. The Gemara says, no, what did Rabbi Yehuda mean when he said that it's not tamei? He meant that it doesn't have tumah chamura. It doesn't have the real high level of tumah of paraduma water. It does still have the regular level of tumah, and really foods can become tamei from water, and that's what he meant when he said it's not tamei. Doesn't have high level tumah, but it does have low level tumah. Gemara says, hold on. That means you're saying that Rabbi Yehuda is saying that it's tahar. He's saying it doesn't have high level tumah. It means the Tanna Kama argued on him and said that it's tamei, was saying that it does have high level tumah. But look carefully at his words. He doesn't say that it is tamei to the extent that it can transmit tumah. It is a high level tumah. He just says its meat is tamei. It became tamei. It doesn't say that it has a high level. Doesn't seem to indicate that. So Gemara says, okay, so we're going to have to adjust this Mishnah a little. There really is no Tanna Kama. It's really all Rabbi Yehuda, and there's a phrase missing here. And what the way you read this Mishnah or this brisa is that a cow which drank paraduma water only has low-level tumah because Rabbi Yehuda holds that the tumah comes off, and it's batel, it doesn't have high-level tumah that comes off because it's not paraduma water anymore. It's only low-level tumah, and therefore it all fits. Now, that's the Gemara's first approach. The Gemara gives a whole other approach here. Rav Ashi says, no, really, this water is not tamei at all. And the reason is because it doesn't have the halacha of drinkable water anymore. It's inside a cow's stomach. It is disgusting. The halacha is that any water which is disgusting is not, it doesn't qualify, as the pasuk says, water is mashke asher yishaseh, water which one could drink. It doesn't qualify as that, and therefore it gets no tumah at all. It's considered to be totally ruined. Okay, that is the Gemara's discussion about Rabbi Yehuda's Shita. Now we go to the Shita of Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Shimon. Specifically, we're going to focus on Rabbi Yossi. And this opinion holds that there is tumah from liquids. Liquids can transmit tumah to foods, but not to kalim. The Gemara is going to compare this to the opinion of Rabbi Akiva, who was Rabbi Yossi's Rebbe. Rabbi Akiva holds of a drasha when the Torah describes certain objects becoming tameh. Instead of using the word tameh, it says yitma, which technically means it will become tameh or it will make tumah. So Rabbi Akiva says you have a drasha from that this object, not only does it become tameh, but it transmits tumah further. That's what you learn from the extra word yitma. And the Gemara wants to say that Rabbi Akiva says that drasha. He uses it for certain halachos. Rabbi Yossi uses it for other halachos, and one of those halachos that Rabbi Yossi uses it for is that liquids can transmit tumah to foods, and that those foods can transmit that tumah further. So the Gemara is going to go through Rabbi Yossi's drasha, the potential drasha from the word yitma, and then the Gemara will go through Rabbi Akiva's drasha and how his drasha works. Now, there's three types of tumah that we need to discuss. There's tumah of food, tumah of liquids, and tumah of kalim. And when we are talking about the tumah of each of them, we have to discuss, can they pass tumah further? And then again, you have the same three options. Can it pass further to tumah of foods, or can it pass to foods? Can it pass tumah to liquids? And can it pass tumah to kalim? So we have 9 options here. We have 9 things which we can potentially learn, which we have to derive, and that's the tumah of foods, liquids, and kalim. Can each one pass to foods, liquids, and kalim? To add complication, there's a difference between how each of those became tameh in the first place. When we're asking about a liquid, for example, which became tameh, and trying to see what can it pass the tumah onto, well, how did that liquid get its tumah? Well, it would depend. If it got its tumah from a kli, it may have one halacha. If it got its tumah from sheretz itself, it may have a different halacha. And the Gemara will work through each of these. So, let's work through it. So there are 3 psukim that use the word yitma. One is talking about kalim, one is talking about foods, and in the same pasuk about foods, it says the same phrase about liquids. So you got the word yitma 3 times. Now, Rabbi Yossi's drasha is from the word yitma, which is written in the context of liquids. It says, V'chol mashka asher yishasa, any liquid which you can drink, B'chol kli, which is in any kli, yitma, it is tameh and can transmit that tumah further. Says Rabbi Yossi, according to the way the Gemara wants to understand it, you see here that liquids can transmit tumah further. And what can it transmit tumah to? So Rabbi Yossi's halacha, as we have seen in the Mishnah, is Rabbi Yossi says it can transmit the tumah to other foods, but not to other kalim. So Gemara says, well, hold on a second. First of all, how do you know that this mashkin yitma? How do you know it's telling you it can transmit tumah to foods? Maybe it's telling you it can transmit tumah to other mashkin to mashkin. So Gemara says that can't be the pshat. That can't be what the pasuk means for 2 reasons. First of all, you never find any object can transmit a tumah to a similar object to itself. Mashkin can't transmit to mashkin, liquids can't transmit to liquids, kalim can't transmit to kalim, and we shall see foods cannot transmit to foods, although there is a source that says the other way, which Rashi asks, how can that fit? The Gemara offers a second reason that liquids here, the word yitma cannot be saying that liquids can pass tumah to other liquids. And that is that in the first half of the pasuk, where it said the word yitma about foods which became tameh, it was telling you that it could pass it to other liquids. So if the second half of the pasuk, which is talking about liquids passing tumah further, is also saying that it could pass tumah to other liquids, then why does it have to say the word yitma twice separately, once for foods passing it to liquids and once for liquids passing it to liquids? Just say yitma once. And it's going to tell me together, you could wrap it all up in one. You could say that foods and liquids are both tumah, and they can both pass tumah to other liquids. And that's what the word yitma is for. You only need the word yitma once. Obviously, the fact that it says yitma separately, it's telling me that each of them could pass tumah to something else, not to the same thing. And since the first half of the pasuk was telling me that tumah could be passed to liquids, this half has to be telling me something else, not that it's passed to liquids, and that can only be food. So therefore, when it says mashkin, when it says yitma in the context of liquids, it can't be talking about transmitting to liquids. The Gemara says, well, maybe it's telling me that that liquids could transmit to kalim. So the Gemara says, well, that can't be. A kli can't transmit to another kli. this liquid only became tummy in the first place from a kli. So if the kli that it got tuma from can't transmit to a kli, the liquids which got tuma from the kli certainly can't transmit to a kli, so that can't be true. The Gemara says, okay, well maybe it's coming to tell me that a liquid which became tummy from a sheret, that could transmit further to a kli. How do you know we're talking about liquids which got tuma from a kli? Maybe we're talking about liquids which got tuma from a sheret, and it's telling you that it can transmit that further. It can transmit that to a kli, and therefore Yossi would not have a source that liquids can transmit to foods here. Maybe we're talking about liquids transmitting to a kli. The Gemara says no. Liquids that got tuma from a sheret are not written here in the pasuk at all. It's not what's being discussed. The only way we know that liquids can become tummy from a sheret is that, look, if they can become tummy from a kli, then it makes sense that they can become tummy from the source of tummy itself, which is the sheret. But that's a kal v'chomer, and the rule is whenever you learn a halacha out of a kal v'chomer, it's limited to the powers of its source. So we know that liquids can become tummy from a sheret only because of a kal v'chomer from kalim, and just like liquids that became tummy from kalim can't transmit it to other kalim, we said that because of kal v'chomer, certainly therefore liquids which got tumah from a sheret also cannot transmit it further to kalim. The only option therefore that we're left with to explain this yitma is that liquids can transmit tumah to foods, and that's how Rabbi Yossi understands it. That's his limud, that's his drasha, and that's what his halacha is. Now the Gemara concludes that discussion. Now the Gemara wants to talk about Rabbi Akiva's drasha. What was Rabbi Akiva's drasha? Rabbi Akiva had said on the word yitma in the pasuk describing the tumah of foods, he said that word yitma teaches you that foods can transmit tumah further, and it can even be metame liquids. Now, it can't be telling me that foods can transmit tumah to other foods, as we've explained earlier. Nothing can be metame itself. Nothing can be metame its own type. So it can't be talking about that. So it's got to be talking about that foods can transmit tumah to liquids. The Gemara says, how do you know? Maybe it's telling me that foods can transmit tumah to kalim. So Gemara says, well, that can't be. Look at liquids. Liquids can transmit tumah to foods, as we had said earlier. That was Rabbi Yossi's drasha. But liquids cannot transmit tumah to kalim. So if liquids can transmit tumah to foods and not to kalim, so then foods which can't even transmit tumah to foods certainly can't transmit tumah to kalim. So it's got to be that it can transmit tumah to liquids, and that's what the pasuk is teaching me here. Says the Gemara, how do you know? Maybe there's a special reason that foods should be considered stronger and are able to be matami ekli, even though liquids can't be metame kli. And how are foods stronger? Simple. Foods could be metame liquids, but liquids can't be metame liquids. You showed me one way in which liquids are stronger than foods. I'll show you one way in which foods are stronger than liquids. And therefore you can't prove it to me from the fact that liquids can't be metame kli, that food can't be metame kli. The Gemara says no, that's not a proof. Really, foods are not stronger. The reason why foods could be metame liquids is because of a special weakness that liquids have. Liquids are very susceptible to tumah in the sense that they don't have to become wet. They're wet already. They don't have to become wet before they can be mekabel tumah. Foods do have that, and therefore there's a special weakness that liquids have. That's why foods can be metame liquids, not because of any special strength that foods have, and therefore you cannot define some strength that you found that should override this kal v'chomer. It's not true, and therefore we do not have any possibility that the pasuk of Yitma is teaching me that foods could be metame kli, as we've seen that you can't do that. It must be therefore teaching me that foods could be metame liquids, and that's the source for this. Okay, that's the Gemara's conclusion. The Gemara now just wants to know, we're working here on the assumption that nothing could be metame its own min. The source for that, Rabbi Akiva has from the word yitma. It says yitma twice to say that you can only be metame, that something which becomes tame, only it is tame in the realm of this type of object. This is tameh, and it cannot transmit tameh further. So therefore, that comes to say that foods can't transmit to foods, kalim can't transmit to kalim, and liquids can't transmit to liquids. Nothing can transmit to its own type because we say this is tamei and not another type of this is gonna be mekabel tumah from it. We have another source though for this halacha that something can transmit tumah to its own type, and that's from the pasuk describing hechsher tumah. It says v'chiyuta in mayim lazer v'naf min avlasam alav tamehu. Tamehu, it is tamei, and not another thing of its type can become tamei from it. So you have two sources for the same thing. Why? So Gemara says the two sources are needed for, let's say, liquids that were they themselves became tamei from a kli, or they themselves became tamei from a sheret. If you only told me that liquids that became tamei from a kli can't transmit tumah to other liquids, I wouldn't necessarily know that liquids that became tamei from a sheret can't transmit tumah to other liquids. It has a much stronger tumah now. It got it from a sheret. So Gemara says, okay, but maybe say it the other way. Maybe just tell me one source for liquids that became tamei from a sheret that it can't transmit it to other liquids, and then I would know on my own that liquids that became tamei from a kli can't transmit to other liquids. So the Gemara says, you're right, we could have done that. We didn't really need two psukim, but you find often throughout Shas that even though you could figure out something from Kal v'chomer, the Torah will give you a source for it explicitly in the psukim anyway, and that's why you have this source here. Okay, so far we've had the source for Rabbi Akiva, and we understood his drasha. We have the source for Rabbi Yossi, we understood his drasha. And the Gemara had to try to present that they are both agreeing with each other in how you explain the word Yitma. Gemara now asks, we're going to see soon, that Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Akiva, and these two opinions do not fit together. They're mutually exclusive. They're both competing over psukim, and they're mutually exclusive in their approach. And therefore, how could it possibly be that one holds of the other, and that's why they say these drashas? The Gemara answers, it's not a problem. Rabbi Yossi here is really not saying his own opinion. Rabbi Yossi has a different opinion which is exclusive to Rabbi Akiva's opinion. It cannot fit with Rabbi Akiva's opinion. There's an entire statement here where he said that liquids can pass tumah to foods. That was really, he was saying that in Rabbi Akiva's opinion, Rabbi Akiva's his Rebbe, he was saying over his Rebbe's opinion. He himself doesn't hold of it. And that's why we'll see soon on Daf Yud Test that his own personal opinion doesn't fit with Rabbi Akiva's drashas, and we will get into that at length on the next.
Drive the Daf is a project of the Grand Woodlands Shul and is presented by Rabbi Yitzchak Landa. Find us on YouTube or subscribe to daily emails by emailing drivethedaf@gmail.com.